Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg, and it's always a great day when my colleague and friend is in the studio, and that is Ed Hiner. He is the president of Asymmetrical Evolution, retired Navy SEAL, Lieutenant Commander. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And two-time New York Times best-selling author, 2 books. The recent one is Guts, Greatness Under Tremendous Stress, in his first book, First, Fast, and Fearless. Ed, how you doing?
Great. Thanks for asking.
Listen, it's terrific. You do so many things, and you're focused on really, which is in your wheelhouse and it's in your DNA. You love working with those groups, underrepresented kids, youth, that sometimes might have gone awry over that, and telling them what you learned as a kid yourself and as an athlete, but through the Navy SEALs and so forth. And so what is asymmetrical evolution, and how did you get involved in it, and especially your work with San Pascual Academy?
Well, 2019, a friend of mine, as you know as well, is Charles Parisi. He's also we partnered up on asymmetrical evolution.
Right.
We just got together. We met through kind of just random circumstances. He contacted me 2 or 3 years before that, through my Facebook page after my first book came out and hit the bestseller list. He contacted me and asked me to come speak at his charter school that he helped. And I'm like, why not? Okay. So we did that. I came and spoke at his school, and we just hit it off really well. And we both kind of share the same beliefs and passions about helping, giving back to kids. He and I both kind of grew up in similar circumstances, obviously on different sides of the I guess the Dixie line, if you would. I was down south in Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, and Charles was up in.
He was a Yankee, and you were.
That's right. I didn't want to say it out loud.
Dixie guy. I could say that.
Yeah. He was a Yankee, and I was a redneck.
Right.
And but he grew up in the projects. I grew up in the mountains of Blue Ridge, Virginia, with my grandmother. So we both had hard backgrounds, and we just decided, hey, let's partner up here and start working with kids. We both wanted to do it. And I kind of came off a bunch of combat deployments that really made me think about what I was going to do with my life when I retired. And that was part of it, is to help and kind of give kids in the hard-hit neighborhoods, underserved kids of color, those type of things. We started in 2019. We started up the company, and we started up the San Pascual Academy, which is a foster youth academy. Awesome place, incredible place. And from there, we did a summer camp. Charles and I put it together, 2-week camp. We got with the executive director of the courts and juvenile system schools. And after a 4.5-hour pitch, we're like, hey, we don't want anything from you. We just want to do this. And we did, and it was such a hit. We did another one in the winter for 6 weeks, and then we became kind of a common fixture at the academy there.
Yeah, without question. And, first of all, Ed, thank you so much for your service. You were in the Navy SEAL for how long?
20 years.
20 years. And you were the leader of BUDS, right? Is that it?
At one point, I was the training officer for basic and advanced training, which is BUDS falls under basic training, yes.
Right, exactly. So you're here in Coronado for a good part of it, or not really?
I was back and forth. I was East Coast, West Coast, East Coast. And I was also British Special Forces for a couple of years. After 9/11, I took off to go to England and spent a couple of years of their called Special Boat Service. They're equivalent to the SEAL teams.
Right.
SAS is more familiar with people, but it's the same service.
Right, exactly. So was it those things that you learned probably through your whole life, of course, as you mentioned, growing up with your grandma, you said, right?
Yep.
And some of the challenges you had, you were an athlete, baseball player, so forth. Now you're in the Navy SEALs. When you and Charles got together, and Charles, again, and I think he's unabashed when he says this, I don't think I'm speaking out of tune, grew up in the projects in New York and said, I want to do as much as I can for those kids who really are motivated to do things. And he has been an entrepreneur since age 20. 25 in this aspect of it. Your focus is working with kids to pretty much train them to be leaders and so forth, and to get a PhD in me, right?
That's right. MyPhD.me. That's our website. But the ultimate goal for them is mental toughness, if you will,
Yes.
kind of training, but also to understand accountability and understand to take control of their life, learn what discipline is, because everybody tells you need to have discipline and all these things. But what is it? How do I get some of that? And we teach them the basics, fundamentals, how to take step-by-step information and turn it into your life.
Right. And this group itself, and you had some experience in this growing up, and certainly Charles did as well. And we have a lot of foster folks on our shows here in Spotlight. Just had Don Wells on from Just in Time for Foster Youth, and he's done magnificent work. And these are kids that have not trusted adults because adults haven't given them an opportunity to be trusted because they've done bad things to these kids for whatever reason. They've not been loved. They've maybe not been hugged and not been told you're doing well. How hard is it to get to these kids?
At first it is. I'm not going to lie to anyone. The first few days depends on how long the course is. This
Right.
past course we just finished.
Right.
It's 6 weeks long.
Right.
First few days, as you can expect, they have trust issues.
Right, they're testing you out, right?
They're looking at you. These kids, mostly, a lot of them from the streets and different backgrounds, so they have a good meter when it comes to finding out bullshit.
Right.
Excuse my language, but
Yeah, right.
They know.
Right.
And we just treat them like we treat anyone else. We give respect right up front. They
Right.
give us respect. We teach them those things. But trust is earned, and we earn trust over time, and we teach them what trust is, how to get it, how to earn it from people, and how to look for it.
Yeah. With that, 'cause we're talking with my good friend Ed Hiner. He's the president of Asymmetrical Evolution, a 2-time New York Times best-selling author. First, Fast and Fearless, his first book, and then his recent one, Guts. He's a retired, decorated Navy SEAL Lieutenant Commander. I'm Drew Schlosberg, as you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show on Cloudcast Media, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. Here we are in these nice Mission Fed studios that Ed's been in before. At Scripps Ranch, and Mission Fed's been doing great things for San Diegans for more than 60 years. One of the things that, as I've spent some time looking at your curriculum and knowing what you folks are doing, Charles, as many of our listeners knows, is my partner here in Cloudcast Media in the Spotlight Show as well. Talk about how ethos comes up, and how does that tie into your curriculum?
Well, I call it ethos, but
Ethos.
I'm a redneck.
Okay, no, I think you're right. Excuse me, my bad. My Southern California roots.
That's
Okay, right.
Well, it's the foundation for it
Yeah.
all. Basically, and when we do a course with the kids, as we go through the lessons and let them explore themselves, near the end is when we actually come up. So you can create your own ethos, a life by design, right? Because most of these kids, they understand they've been given the life they have as of this point, but we let them explore and aspire to be something. What is it they aspire to be? Write it down, and we help them break down their ethos. What is it? How do you want to live your life? Who do you want to be? Because you have to decide. We tell them the first 15 or 16, 17 years were taken from you, or you were victimized, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But the next 80 or whatever are yours.
Right.
You can define that life for yourself, and that's the final exercise. And let them explore who they want to be, not just who they think they could be or can be, but who they really, really want to be.
Right. So how do you get that to them? How do they, who have not experienced this in their first 16, 17 years, how do they even get their hands around that?
Well, we have some exercises we work with them, and we work with people. One, a lot of the times, and this sounds strange, but we let them do what they wish to do. We don't, of course, always tell them how to dictate this, but a lot of it is they look at people in their lives, and they have plenty that they do not want to be like.
Right.
And they say, as much as we don't like that philosophy, but they like to explore what they don't want to be. Once they figure out what they don't want to be, then they can start to figure out what they do want to be. Yeah. And most of these kids, it's really unique that you see most of the kids in high school, 17, 18, 16 years old, whatever they are, they're not interested in like being a social media influencer or famous and stuff like that. Almost every single one of them wants to give back. They have that gene in them, and it's been triggered in them that to care for other people. And I think people in adversity feel that way, and that they definitely do. And I think most of them we're going to have some great citizens coming out of this program.
But you know what's so interesting about that comment, and you're really spot on. We're chatting with Ed Hiner, president of Asymmetrical Evolution, two-time best-selling New York Times author, and retired Navy SEAL. And, you hear this all the time. That's a very good point you make. When you find out from groups like the San Diego Food Bank or, Feeding San Diego, who gives to you a lot, they said, it is the people that really don't have the means, the ones that have been down and out, that want to, whether it's a 50-cent can of soup that they can afford, they want to give back. So you're spot on. These folks have that in that, in that gene. Do you work with those students at San Pascual Academy to, how do they get out in the community? Or can they get out in the community? Can you show them how to become citizens that give back?
Well, a lot of them do volunteer, and they have a special program. Obviously, there's a lot of tight controls on how we can engage with the kids outside the class. But they've been here at the studio, matter of fact, on the field trip.
I know they have.
And but a lot of the kids work, but they do expose the kids to the possibilities to help give back to society and do volunteer work, those type of things. Yeah.
Right. No, I think that's great, and it's a great model that you and Charles are doing. Whether this can work here in San Diego County, but there's no reason why this can't work in Brooklyn and in Detroit and where you grew up as well. It's very transportable and so forth. Talk about leadership. Everyone talks about leadership. I've been talking about leadership. Some people started walking upright, how many years ago, BC, right? But listen, there's certain things that are important about leaders. How do you teach that?
Well, I would make it, for the kids, I make it very simple. Right, I call it the MOM model, MOM, mission, others, me. The focus in your life as leaders, especially in the SEAL teams, it's a service organization. And the focus of any good leader is first the mission, focus on others second, and then yourself last. And if you make decisions for your company, your organization, your family, or whatever, in those in that order, then you're probably going to do the right thing most of the time. Right,
exactly. And of course, that is it with the military in general. We all know that, especially with the work that you folks did at Navy SEALs. And if it's the other way around, if it's focused on you, then everybody fails, correct?
Yeah. And then you get some of the corporate nonsense that goes on in America. You see where these CEOs, the company's going broke, but the CEOs are making $50, $70 million.
There's always a juxtaposition of that. Let me get this straight. You ran the company into the ground and you got a nice buyout of $50 million. How do I sign up for that job in that area? Ed, when we come back from break, I want to talk a little bit more about what you folks are doing. I want to definitely talk about the books. Okay, that are those some of the chapters that are in those two best-selling books, First, Fast and Fearless, and Guts, that you use in the curriculum for that aspect of it. And then I always like to ask authors, what made you decide to do a book? Because that is not easy. You may think some of your SEAL training might have been tough, but maybe being an author is tougher. We'll chat about that when we come back. How's that sound?
Perfect.
We'll be right back with Ed Hiner, president of Asymmetrical Evolution, two-time best-selling author and retired Navy SEAL. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show on Cloudcast Media, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, doing great things for San Diegans for more than 60 years. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you're listening to Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show on Cloudcast Media, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union here in the beautiful Mission Fed studio in Scripps Ranch. And Mission Fed's been doing spectacular things for San Diegans for more than 60 years with our good friend Ed Hiner, president of Asymmetrical Evolution. So Ed, talk about the books, okay? There are two of them. First, Fast and Fearless. That was your first book, and your recent one is Guts. Do you take chapters or some of the lessons from those books, and are they infused in your asymmetrical evolution curriculum?
Well, the short answer is yes, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Guts, especially The Greatness Under Tremendous Stress, the recent book, is really focused on self-leadership. It's kind of, I'm going backwards, I found in my writing. I started off with the leadership book. I was just excited to write it.
Right.
First, Fast and Fearless. And then I wanted to write Guts, and Guts goes kind of more the self-leadership. And then I'm actually, my next book is going even further back. I'm going the opposite direction with an ethos project.
Really?
Yeah.
And is that going to be a book? I know you were doing some playwriting or screenwriting up in LA recently?
I am. Yeah, I'm actually writing a screenplay, and I've written numerous TV shows. That's just more for fun and just pitching. I got a pretty good pitch with Paramount Plus for about an hour and a half, and
nice.
Didn't get funded, but it's fun doing it. Yet, that's right. That's part of the curriculum. Yet,
that's right.
But yeah, I do that kind of for fun. But the books, I really enjoy writing the books. I know a lot of people think it's intimidating, and I'm not much of. I didn't think I was much of a writer, to be honest with you, from my childhood and stuff. But it's probably one of the most rewarding single things that I do.
So how do you do that now? We love having authors on our Spotlight show, Ed, and they all have different ways of dealing with things, whether they're writing poetry, whether they're writing novels, whether they're writing historical, fiction or nonfiction, and all that aspect of it. So did you come up with the idea to write the book, or did one of your friends say, God, you got to write a book, man, based on what you did as a Navy SEAL or whatever the case may be? Where did it start?
I think I'm the one that kind of decided it. Yeah, I just thought that would be just a great way to express myself, and it's something I never have done before, and it was intimidating. Kind of embraced the fear part of it, and I just worked through the process. It's a long process, not easy, but I got an agent, I got a publisher. And the worst part of it is actually writing a proposal.
So when you had the proposal, did your agent or did a coach or whatever say, here's how to write a proposal, or you just did it blind?
Just did it in the blind. Got on the web, looked it up, read some books. I had a book for dummies on how to write a proposal, I think it was.
Right.
But yeah, we started going forward, got the ideas. The agent loved it. McGraw-Hill. The first pitch from McGraw-Hill, they took it.
That's a great publisher too. Yeah.
Yeah. So and that part's not fun. But the writing part of what I do, it's really simple. I keep several documents on my computer open, Word documents all the time. Right. And whenever a thought comes to my mind, I just go in and start writing and see where it stops. Right. And then I just accumulate those notes over time.
Do you ever get into a role, of course, with your experience as a Navy SEAL, when you're doing your combat and whatever, it's 24/7 as long as it is, and that's it. Maybe never sleep again. In that aspect of it, is it the same thing with writing? Man, I'm on a roll. I'm just not stopping. Or taking a breath. Do you ever write straight for 15 hours in a row?
Well, I don't know about 15, but close to that. I mean, what mine is, I explain it to people. It's to me, and I try to explain this to my wife because I work at home. I try to not, when the door's shut, don't knock. Yeah. But it's like spelunking into a cave.
Of course.
Right? As I'm writing and you dig in there, it takes, you can get an hour into that cave and you don't want to come back out.
That's right.
So you got to stay inside that cave and keep writing until you run out of gold or whatever you're looking for.
Right.
And then, because when you come out, it takes you 20 more minutes, 30 minutes to get back to where you're at and get your mind focused on what you're doing.
Right. Without question in that area of it. So talk about guts, greatness under tremendous, stress. That's all about Navy SEAL life, is it not?
It is. It's about life in general. People in
That's true. Very
Fortunately, I finished the manuscript right at the very beginning of COVID and pulled it back from the publisher to put a couple things about COVID in there because everything I was writing about, it just unfolded.
Right.
You're like, wow, isolation, what that does to people. Awfulizing is what I call it, when that little monkey in your brain starts to continuously look at the worst case scenario possible and go over it, over it, over it, over it. So it just teach people how to break those cycles, use words to create the mindset. I mean, discipline starts with a word, discipline. There's certain words you just, if you use, you're going to create a certain mindset. It's going to take you in the wrong direction.
Yeah, no, that's so good. Again, chatting with Ed Hiner, the president of Asymmetrical Evolution, 2-time best-selling author and a retired Navy SEAL as a lieutenant commander. I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show on Cloudcast Media, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, doing great things in San Diego for more than 60 years. So, obviously, I imagine the kids, when you come in there, you introduce yourself. Do you introduce yourself first as a curriculum developer, as a symmetrical evolution guy, as a author of books, or as a Navy SEAL, or all of the above?
Mostly all the above. It depends on the course, but we try to sometimes show them a video. I know it's a little cheesy, but a video to say, here's what I've done. Here's what Navy SEALs are, and here's some History Channel documentary series I was on, all these kind of things, to kind of bring it into the kids, some of the hardship that I'd been through, and then Charles gives his background. But we start off with the background, and in a way, kind of relate to the kids,
right?
Because we have similar backgrounds as them,
right. And how much do you chat about that? Anybody who's been successful, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, been as honest, will say, well, I learn as much from failure as I do from success. Do you talk about that?
Yeah, we do. Obviously, that's been, a horse has been beaten a lot in every course in the world, but we do talk about that because kids need to hear that. You're going to fail. It's going to suck. The world's not going to end for you.
That's right.
And we actually, Charles and I both kind of speak off of a concept called the privilege of poverty, which may be one of my books, by the way, down the road. But the privilege of poverty, but it looks like, whoa, that's an oxymoron, right? But it's not, because there's certain things that these kids, and when you're in a situation, maybe you're homeless, maybe you're in a foster youth system, maybe you're struggling financially and whatever, you learn things that other kids don't learn.
Right.
And you understand the world in a way they don't understand. And then from everything that happens to you from that point is kind of gravy. It's icing on the cake. It's wonderful. If you start off in on third base in life, you only got one base to go.
Yeah. Right.
So we teach from that, the privilege of poverty, and explain to them how they're gifted and lucky in some sense.
Yeah, but also the ones who start off on third base. It's not that they don't have their hardships, and it's not that. And I think that's what happens sometimes. People go, "Boy, you were born with X. You're on third base. All you did was being born in this aspect of it." Well, don't think we don't have some challenges as well, and can learn from what you're talking about and so forth. I know this is going to make Charles's hair crawl on his back. He dislikes the word resiliency, and he has said it many times. I tend to disagree with him on this aspect of it. What's your view on that?
Well, the word's been overused. It's like any word, once it's overused consistently.
Yeah, like pivot. Right. The pandemic pivot, right?
Well, we like the word anti-fragile.
Yeah, right.
A little bit better. We both, there's a book, what's his name? Khalib.
Okay.
Very good writer. I mean, but you got to put time aside to read that. It's very complicated. Okay. But just the thought of, because what's the opposite of fragile? Anti-fragile.
Right.
So, and that's, I think for us, it's a better way of looking at it, because these, when you take a hit, taking a hit makes you stronger.
Right.
And that's a kind of way to look at it. If you have no hits and you become 30 years old and all of a sudden something happens in your life, then that first hit might take you down for a long time.
Well, it's like a bully. Bully's never been slugged in the nose. Okay. Right. And then bully gets slugged in the nose. That didn't feel good. Yeah, because no one has slugged you in the nose yet. You probably should have been slugged in the nose at age 5. You wouldn't be doing this stuff. In that aspect of it. So, Ed, if somebody was listening and says, listen, well, I want to get the books on Amazon.
Amazon, yeah. I mean, in the bookstores as well, but Amazon's probably the easiest, best place to go.
Right. And listen, wanted to save some time on this. You are available as a speaker. I got you to speak at an event when I was working for the San Diego Union Tribune and so forth. And you're available for speaking opportunities, correct?
I do, yeah. Just contact me at myphd.me or edhiner.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I do corporate events. During the pandemic, obviously that stopped down a lot, but lately it's been ramping back up. People like speaking and talking about leadership, especially with all the adversity that's been going on during the COVID and lockdown time.
Yeah, without question. And if someone else is listening and says, "Listen, I've got some kids that I work with, or I know someone who has kids that I work with that are in the foster youth area or are challenged, they're in alternative schools, but they want to learn more about asymmetrical evolution," then can they just reach out and call you?
Yeah, just go to myphd.me or edhiner.com, either one, and Charles and I'll get the message and we'll contact you back.
That sounds great, Ed. It's always a pleasure chatting with you. Any final comments?
No, I appreciate you having me. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And next time we have you in, let's bring in some of those, special folks from San Pascual Academy. They can share the mic with you. What do you think?
Absolutely.
We'll make that happen. Ed Hiner, always good to have you in here. President of Asymmetrical Evolution, 2-time best-selling author and retired Navy SEAL Lieutenant Commander. I'm Drew Schlosberg. Been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show on Cloudcast Media, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, doing great things for San Diegans for more than 60 years.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.